And I'll call on you as we go. And we'll start again with Bob Scanlon, Fox Sports San Diego.
A.J., congratulations. A pretty exciting few days. How satisfying and how significant were these moves, not only in terms of improving your ball club, but really signifying a turning point in Padres baseball?
Yeah, I mean, I think it just speaks to what from an organization standpoint, for what we tried to set out a few years ago. Overall, what the goal, baseball operations wise, was, to have a team that farm system, the foundation was built. We have a lot of talent up and down throughout the organization. You have a scouting department that does a good job bringing in talented young baseball players, and then a farm farm system and a minor league coaching staff that develops those guys to the point that we have a major league team that has an exciting brand of baseball that people want to watch play. And I think when you have that going on, it enabled us to have players that other teams wanted, and ultimately I think the way the major league team has played this year, I think that's it's energized Ron, Peter, myself, and ultimately I think it's all part of a plan, so it's never like an emotional decision or anything like that. But I think the team itself has shown that it's a good ball club. It's a fun team to watch. And when we had some trades that lined up with a farm system that was deep and a young major league team that was deep, I think it enabled us to make some deals that we feel like are going to help us here over the course of not just the next couple of weeks, but really the next couple of years.
To see what your team is doing on the field and to be able to pull off the types of moves you've been able to have that sort of talent capital to be able to work with, does that sort of confirm everything that you guys have been working on for the last 4 years in building this?
Yeah, I think it's a credit, really. Mark Connor on the amateur side, Pete DeYoung on the pro side, Chris Kemp on the international side. Those guys do a great job, and they're just representative of the department in terms of all the scouts that we have throughout the organization. It's a concerted effort to get to know players throughout the country, throughout the world, bringing guys that fit what we're looking for. Making sure our own scouts understand what they're looking for. But honestly, I could go, region by region and just talk about, kind of the contribution that the different guys have had to bringing different players in and ultimately what that leads to in terms of giving a general manager and a front office some capital to go ahead and make moves. And, you and I both line up all the time, but, over the course of the last few days, I think we were able to line up with things that we feel like are going to help us, and honestly a big part because of what Mark, Chris, and Pete have done over the last 4 or 5 years.
Coming into this trade period, it seems like it was not going to be any half measures. Was it all in or nothing type of approach here?
No, I mean, honestly, I think this was not like, hey, we needed to line up 4 or 5 different moves. I think we sat down as a group, about a week ago. We talked about 4 main areas from front of the rotation starter, looking at the bullpen mix, the current pen mix, and honestly probably looking at somebody that could, with Kirby Yates potentially being down, for the year, looking at somebody that could fill that spot. Looking at the catching position, just trying to figure out exactly what we wanted to do there, and then probably one more bat, from the left-hand side. And I don't think any of us looked at it and said we had to fill, all of those needs. We weren't going to do one of the moves if we didn't do, the other 2 or 3 moves. But just as it started lining up, I think ultimately we felt we had deals that, we felt again like that were deals that helped us in the short term. But more importantly, I think in each of those cases, they're deals that we feel like help us, for the next month or so, and also help us in the next couple of years. And obviously you've got to give up good players and good talent. We feel like we did that. We're going to give up, there are players that are going to go out there and be good major league players. We've done that in the past, in certain deals. But we like the guys we got back, and we like the mix of guys that we can add to a really exciting team at the major league level this year.
Last one, I'll pass the baton. How important is the team chemistry in making those decisions, and also playoff experience? It seems like quite a few of these guys have some.
Yeah, I think it's huge. I think we looked at that with all the different moves. I was constantly on the phone with whether it be Jace or some members of the coaching staff. Again, you don't want to bring in too many new faces or anything like that. But ultimately, if when you bring in a starter like Mike Clevinger, you bring in a pen, closer type, and Trevor Rosenthal. Those are pretty easy fits, in terms of the team. And I think I think for us, like the really cool part was just feeling talking to a few of the players on the team, and then especially hearing from the staff. They know they're enjoying the chemistry, the dynamic every single day, and they were, inviting, us to go make moves, and it made our job easy to look out. And when you got the support saying, hey, you can bring in, trust you to bring in the right type of people into this clubhouse, and we're looking forward to that, and and not just make it work. Like, we're excited to go add some pieces, try to help us get to where we want to get to. So I think all those things lined up for us, and that was all part of the last couple of days making the trades we made.
Thank you, AJ.
Thank you, Bob.
All right, we'll move on. Just from here on out, just ask if we can keep it to 1 or 2 questions per person. We'll go to Annie Halbrin with the UT.
Hey, AJ, how long had you guys been eyeing Clevinger, and was that a pretty fluid situation over the last 24 hours or so?
Yeah, I mean, he's obviously been one of the best pitchers in the league. I think joked around with him on the phone. I don't think he remembers this, but he was at a Chris Kemp tryout camp in the Carolinas, I think, when he was leaving the Citadel, probably in 2010 or so. So we remember that. I don't know if he did, but for a while. But seeing his progression from Citadel to Seminole Community College to a 4th-round pick, to the trade with Cleveland, and then obviously just becoming one of the best pitchers in the league in Cleveland, what he's learned and what he's done. He's always been really talented, a great athlete, great competitor, and just seeing like the continued development of his pitches, command. Again, like, you don't usually get access to those kind of pitchers. We knew it was going to take a big deal, and we knew there was going to be competition. Honestly, I think up until really probably super late last night, early morning hours of today, we didn't know what direction it was going to go in. We just put together our an offer that we felt was competitive, that we were comfortable doing, and ultimately Cleveland felt the same way, and we were able to line up. So there were some definite twists and turns in the last 48 hours, in the pursuit of Mike, but we were really happy we got it done.
And last one for me, to get out of this and not give up like Gore, Patino, Abrams, are you pretty happy with the way you got out of this as far as retaining a lot of your top prospects?
Yeah, it's like one of the the parts of the job that you always, if you're obviously you're making the trades because you think it's going to help your team and your organization. It's definitely bittersweet because they're sitting down with Owen Miller, Joe Cantillo, or Gabe Arias, guys. In Gabe's case, that we've known since he's 15 years old, been in the organization since he's 16, and they're Padres, and they believe in the organization, and like seeing their maturity and stuff, and being able to explain to them, hey, like you guys, it's tough conversations, saying that, hey, like, you're part of this, just in a way that we felt like we wanted to make a deal, and they were guys that had to be part of that deal. So that part's bittersweet. But again, I think it speaks to the talent in the organization, the fact that, we're able to make the deal. We still feel like we have one of the better farm systems, if not the top farm system in the game. I think we feel like, ultimately we have a lot of players, not just at the very top of the system. I think, more waves coming here in the next, in the next couple of years, next couple of months. And, I think for for Sam Gainey, his group, Riley Westman, they did a great job with those players that we moved out, and I think they're looking forward to kind of the next wave of guys that'll be at USD or be in instructional league and kind of continue to develop those guys. So there's a lot of talent in the system. I saw some different people saying things about, hey, this is still a number 2 ranked system, a number 1 ranked system, a number 3 ranked system. We don't get too caught up in that. We just know we have a lot of good players, and being able to make the deals we did, we wouldn't do it if it just emptied out the cupboards, and we still feel like there's a lot of talent down there.
Thanks, AJ.
Thank you.
Next, we'll go to Kevin Acey.
AJ, why are you confident that you bringing in 2 new pitchers in the middle of the season is going to work out?
I think, I think probably in part due to what we think, from Austin Nola and with Jason. I think like you have guys that are in terms of what we know, very intelligent, very smart, a lot of experience, guys that have in Jason's case, caught in the big leagues for a long time, former first-round pick, been on great teams. With Austin, everything we've heard in terms of him making the conversion to the catcher spot, one of the more intelligent guys in the game. So I think they're wired the right way. I think they've caught and know how to handle a staff, and a lot of confidence with Larry Rothschild, with Jace. For everybody to get on the same page, get up to speed, and just belief in the individuals that are down there. So again, anytime you make a move, there's always some risk factor about kind of upsetting the chemistry, the dynamic, the personalities that are there. But honestly, I just have a lot of faith in our staff, our pitching staff, our coaching staff, and definitely in the two guys that we acquired.
Could you kind of, I don't know, you've done so much in the last 5 years, but explain the calculus in your mind of, all right, well, this deal might not work out, but then I'm going to have this piece to trade later. I mean, you've done a lot of that where you've turned veterans into prospects and then prospects into veterans. How's that work?
I think, again, like there's, we have like a really, I think in the front office we have some, I think there's some good minds. There's former GMs, there's, scouting directors, there's experience, there's youth. But ultimately kind of getting those thoughts in terms of some very creative people that are looking at it and, kind of looking at, hey, how do we, kind of asset management in a way, and how do we, kind of understanding that, certain moves may lead to other moves down the road. I think an example, last year, traded a very talented player in Franmil Reyes, and he's doing very well in Cleveland. Got another very talented player in Taylor Trammell. And part of that, too, I think for us was, we felt like Taylor was going to do a good job for us in the Padres and be a Padre down the road. I think part of it when we made the deal and talking to Ron Fowler at the time and Peter was, it felt like this may springboard something bigger. It may springboard us to something that we needed down the road, et cetera. And it just created more, more depth, more capital, and some, and some more opportunity. So, again, I think it's part of all the decisions we make. It's definitely calculated, and ultimately, the last couple of days we were able to line up on some things.
All right, Derek Togerson.
Hey, AJ, looking at the salaries that you brought on, it looked like you didn't add all that much this year, maybe $1 million or $2 million. Were the economics of it something you were conscious of as you were looking at these deals as well for this year?
Yeah, no, I think you always, I think we always are, especially in, I think situation right now, no fans in the stands, with revenue crunch and COVID situations. I think we're always cognizant of that. I think the great. For us, I think, again, just getting a lot of support from Ron and Peter. I think, we talked about it, pretty much on individual moves, and then was able to sit down with Ron and, hey, these are the, 3 or 4 things that may be out there for us. This is what it's going to cost. And, they were very supportive. So maybe one of the first times that maybe under budget from what Ron and Peter gave us. So probably get them back on the back end on that thing, on something else, maybe in the draft or somewhere down the road. But I think definitely cognizant of the short term, and we're always looking at how it fits into the payroll for next year and the next couple of years. So again, I think with getting done with the moves, you look up and Austin Nola, we have a catcher that's under control for 5 years. A guy that will look up and potentially have a young catcher or a catcher that's at least young in terms of service time and from a pace structure standpoint. A young shortstop, young second baseman, a young center fielder. So we're strong up the middle. And I think the fact that they're quality players and doing it in the 0 to 3 status time enables us to do some other things that we've been able to take advantage of.
And then these kind of touched on it, but the other guy on the deal, going to be forgotten one, Greg Allen, local kid, San Diego State, Hilltop High School. Look up his defensive highlights, and the guy can obviously man center field. Is that one of the things you wanted in him, maybe a late inning defensive replacement? Where do you see the former Aztec slotting in?
Yeah, I think just, athletic players, defenders, up the middle players, switch hit bats. I think that checks a lot of boxes for us. I think, as we're looking at it, Will Myers has played a great right field. Honestly, he's been all over the place in right field and he's played really well. And I think with the way Trent's played center field. But, you want to be able to know down the stretch in these regular season games and then, potentially into any type of playoff situation. They're usually low-scoring games. They're usually close games. Every base counts. Every out counts. So we want to put as many good defenders as we can on the field. I think with Greg, as you mentioned, I think that's that's one of those things that was a big factor in getting him added to the deal. And he's one of the guys that can defend the field, and looking forward to seeing him here.
Next, we'll go to A.J. Castro.
A.J., how much better do you think your bullpen is now, and where do those I guess 4 guys all fit into your plans this season?
Yeah, I think we like our bullpen. I think that's probably like the biggest thing is, I think with the injury to Kirby, I think Rosenthal is another guy we feel like could pitch in the back of the bullpen. But I think the next couple of weeks will be a combination of, I think we've seen it here in the last 10 days or so, where we've seen the pen, pitching more like they're capable of, seeing some of the performance, and some of the numbers starting to go in our favor on that area. And I think right now we have a lot of depth in numbers. And I think with Austin Adams coming back from the injury, Dan Altavilla, coming in, and and then Taylor Williams as well. It's just more options for us, and I think to go with probably 7, 8, 9 pitchers that we like from the right side, and then obviously Palmer and Strom and Tim Hill from the left side, and we might get a chance to get Jose Castillo back as well. So, and again, definitely haven't figured it out yet 100% on the pen in terms of the 2020 the bullpen right now, but I believe a lot in the guys that are down there and the guys we've acquired, and think we're going to need all of these guys here in the next few weeks. So I think, talking with Larry, talking with Jace, we'll kind of sort through the numbers of who's on the active roster as we go. But we were able to add, 4 more arms that we really like, and I think we're going to need everybody here in the next couple of weeks.
Next up, we'll go to Bill Shaken.
Hey, AJ, I'm wondering, last year at this time, if you were sitting in second place, you might be making deals with the idea that I might be getting into a 1-game playoff, and how much do I give up for that? How much does that change the scenario that everybody's hitting into a best-of-3 as long as you get in the playoffs, no matter where you finish?
Yeah, for us, not that much. I think everybody does it a little bit different. I know being on the, making calls from the trade deadline in the last few years and since the wild card playoff, I've heard a lot of comments from different teams about, what is the value of a 1-game playoff. And, for us, like, honestly, I think we just try to evaluate where our team is at, and, whether it's a 1-game playoff or a 3-game situation. Playoffs are, it's always a short series. You never know what's going to happen in a short series. I don't think it affected, our decisions and what we thought about over the course of the last, few days. I think if it was a 1-game playoff situation, I think we would have been in a similar spot in terms of making the moves. And I think that's just because we're looking at our club and, looking at areas that fit for both the short term and also some guys that fit for down the road. So in this case, I could just speak for us. It didn't really affect it too much. I do know in the game, in the industry, I think maybe that did lead to some of the activity, because that's been some of the mindset with some of the clubs we've talked to in the last few years about how much do we really want to go in when it's just a 1-game playoff versus, having a little bit longer series that can continue your season.
Thank you.
Darn Trip.
Hey, AJ. Last week, Jace spoke about just how close the team is. What's the challenge now when you have all these players leaving, a bunch of veterans coming in, obviously some big personalities, the challenge that presents, and your confidence that Tingler, the coaching staff, and some of the veterans already in the clubhouse will be able to get a mesh and make sure it is still a tight-knit group over the next 4 weeks?
I think it just speaks to the confidence we have in Jace and his coaching staff and, the leadership on the team. I think that a lot of belief in those guys. I think there's a real collective focus to get this team to the playoffs and, hopefully do damage in the playoffs. And, I think I'm not in Colorado, but just the sense I get from, over the phone, conference calls, feedback is just really a lot of excitement, and I think that just speaks again. We've got strong leadership, in the clubhouse, mainly from the players, whereas it's most important. But again, Jace has been throwing a lot of things here in the last 6 or 7 months as a rookie manager. Having 4 or 5 new faces that are really talented and wired in a good way. That's probably the least of his concerns at this point. So I think he'll do a good job blending the new faces in with the current group here over the course of the next few weeks.
Thank you.
Next, we'll go to Jake.
AJ, it seemed like there was a lot of teams that didn't make moves. I'm curious, was there any level of difficulty this trade deadline, given the parameters of the season you're working with, compared to trade deadlines in the past?
Yeah, I haven't really seen like the final tally in terms of like, you get to those last few minutes and sometimes it seems like things don't go down. Then you get the announcements 20, 30 minutes later, sometimes even longer. But I just know from our experience, the volume of calls, obviously we made a bunch of moves. Felt like it was active. It felt like it was pretty active conversation. I think everybody knows that it's a different season this year, and dealing with the the COVID situation and everything like that. But overall, I can only speak on our experience. It was obviously we lined up on trades, but I think even throughout the industry, it felt like the volume of calls was names were going back and forth. I think really for us, we were active. Not just completing the trades, but we were active really up until the deadline with all kinds of different, and all kinds of different ideas and thoughts. And honestly, a lot of them were coming from outside, coming to us. So, and I kind of got the sense from the conversations with the different GMs that was happening in a lot of different shops across the league.
Next up, we'll go to Marty Caswell.
Hi, AJ. Did your ownership group send a private jet to pick up all these different players that you acquired? And also, as it relates to Mike Clevinger, I know when he had the incident with the protocols, his teammates called it a betrayal of their trust. Was this something that you had to address specifically with your own players and coaches?
Yeah, I think in terms of the travel, it's different than a normal year where we would, you just get somebody on a commercial flight and. So I know Fred Yeoman and Josh Stein and TJ Lucia, they did a great job, and each situation's a little bit different in terms of where the players were. I think a very unique situation, for example, with Jason Castro and Austin Nola. I don't know if it's honestly like maybe in the history of baseball to have two catchers, opposing teams playing in the same city. The same team trades for them. They got I believe car service down to Carlsbad, and Ron Fowler on his plane and flown into Colorado today. So you got two catchers from two different teams on the same flight, hopefully exchanging notes on our pitching staff and catching our pitchers being in for the game. Each situation was a little bit different, and again, I just think speaks to 2020, kind of like using our resources, trying to make the best decisions possible, keeping people safe and healthy, following protocols. I think that's all part of it, and we've got a group that's pretty creative in terms of the best way to handle that. And in terms of the with Mike Clevinger and the situation there in Cleveland and in Chicago, I think the biggest thing, and we spent a lot of time talking about it as a group. Making sure that everybody was not okay with it, but just understanding like what the dynamic was and doing our homework. I think the biggest thing for us is, I think we all make mistakes, and I've made a ton of mistakes, and as a group, it's just like understand that you learn from those mistakes and, basically you own up to it. And, I know that was the part of the deal for him that, right out of the gate, in terms of, he came out and said he wished he would have said, had a different response, right out of the situation when I think one of his teammates got sent home. But after that, he understood, I made a big mistake, and, ultimately we don't think it's going to happen again. And, he's apologetic for it. And, I think from our situation, we'll learn from it as a group. I know he did. And, I think we're looking forward to putting it in the background and, getting him off to a good start here in San Diego.
We can take two more questions in English, and we'll finish up with one in Spanish. We'll go to Tyler Kepner first.
AJ, I know you've been working really hard for a lot of years to get to this kind of point where you can really go all in. How close now do you think you are to having that kind of team that can challenge the Dodgers, frankly, in this division year after year? They've been the powerhouse here for a long time, obviously. Do you think you're at that point now where you can sustain a winning, contending kind of team?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the goal for every team, every organization is, it's hard enough to put something together where you can win for one season or two, but to have a team that can extend that run and do it over the course of, 5+ years, that takes, that's when it speaks to a real organization. I think, obviously looking at the Dodgers, they've done it as well as anybody here over the course of the last really the last decade or so. And yeah, I think told Andrew the other day, I think that actually disappointed them because I thought they were going to go about 50-10 this year, so they may be underachieving, but they've got a great team. There are other really good teams in the National League. I think we've they clearly have set the bar, and I think from our standpoint, we've just done a lot of focusing on ourselves and what we need to do to be an organization and a team that could sustain year in, year out, be competitive year in, year out. Internally, we kind of targeted this 2020 season a few years ago as a year that we wanted to hopefully start, a run of years where every single season we can be competitive and a team that we expect to play deep into October. So far it's been a good month or so, or a good month plus in the season. But I think we understand there's a lot of baseball left to be played this year. We got a lot of stuff in front of us. We've got some new faces we got to blend in. But I think that's the goal, is to have a team that year in, year out is competitive, and hopefully this year's the start of something good for us.
Thanks, AJ.
Go to Kyle Glazer next.
Hey, AJ, what was it in Taylor Williams and Dan Altavilla and Austin Adams that you guys saw that made you want to acquire these guys from Seattle?
Yeah, I mean, I think, again, something a little bit different with Austin Adams. He was a guy when he was, I believe, designated with Washington last year. We were right in the mix on. Probably a deal we should have done, because for the next couple months, I was watching him punch out 2 or 3 a night and having Dave Cameron text me to tell me that probably should have traded for him last year. So you don't forget those things. And I think, just let Jerry know. I know coming off the injury, let Jerry know that he was somebody that we had interest in. Altavilla, we always had interest in him. I think being there in Peoria, we see him every year in spring training. It's a power arm, power stuff, plus fastball with a good slider. Adams obviously has the great slider that he's able to use to punch guys out with. And Taylor Williams, a guy too that going back to the Kent State days, and then Milwaukee, he's a guy that we've always had our eye on. He's a very good athlete. Again, another fastball slider combo. He's been successful this year, getting opportunity in the back end of games. I think really outside of the doubleheader game here in San Diego, he's been really tough in the back part of the ball game. So I think, again, for us, they're guys that have out pitches, guys that are athletes, and guys we've had our eyes on here for not just the last couple of weeks, but really for an extended period of time.
Given some of them haven't had the best performance, were there things you guys saw that you feel like there are tweaks you can make to get the most from them, at least Altavilla and Williams? Yeah,
I think you got to start with raw ability, and I think Altavilla, he's been in the big leagues for a number of years now, and he's missed some time due to injury and being able to come back from that. But again, I think we feel like those guys are big league pitchers. I don't think there are tons of things that we're going to have to do different. I think those guys they've shown they can be successful, and I think we're excited to put them into pennant race type situation and see what they can do.
Thank you.
All right, we'll finish up the call here with one question in Spanish with Tony Alvarez.
Thanks, Craig. AJ, felicidades por los movimientos. ¿Estás satisfecho con todo lo que hiciste? Porque trajiste pitcher abridor, muchos brazos para el bullpen, y cubres también necesidades en el catcher, ¿no? En la posición de catcher. ¿Estás satisfecho?
Sí, para nosotros, tenemos dos receptores nuevos, pero dos receptores que tienen mucha inteligencia, que saben mucho sobre los pitchers que tenemos en el equipo, y también para conseguir un abridor que puede pitchar más entradas, más innings. Yo pienso que eso afecta, van a ayudar y todo el staff también, y las relevistas también, porque cuando tú tienes un pitcher que, cuando el juego empezar, que tú sabes que él va a tirar 7 otros innings, 7 otras entradas, y el bullpen puede tener un día de descanso, 2 días de descanso. Eso es como tú puedes, como un bullpen que tú vas a estar que tú vas a tener mucho resultado. Y cuando tú sabes que tú no necesitas pichar 5 entradas, 6 entradas, 2 días consecutivos, 3 días consecutivos. So, por esta razón, el impacto que Clevinger va a tener, todo fue un parte de la conversación para nosotros.
Oye, y también los contratos, ¿no? O sea, tienes control de los jugadores por muchas temporadas, ¿no? Pensando en el futuro.
Sí, por siempre. Eso eso fue una parte muy importante para nosotros, porque sí es un pelotero de, no sé cómo se dice en español, un alquilado, un rental player, y tú no vas a dar prospectos como nosotros ponemos en estos cambios, pero en la situación con Clevinger, tenemos a él por este año y dos más años consecutivos, y también con Adams por 5 años, con Nola con 5 años. So, para tener un grupo que tú puedes poner junto por 3 o 4 o 5 años consecutivos, eso fue un parte de decisión para nosotros, por seguro.